sense. That is, the word know or knowledge covers the most superficial knowledge, the I know New York. That's the only verb we have. What does this mean? Well, I'm uncertain what it means when I say it in English, but if you're going to say it in any other European language, let's pick Spanish, for example, you have two verbs to know. And the first verb, yo sé saber, yo sé Nueva York, means that I know that New York is a city. That's it. That's what that knowledge means. I can, on the other hand, say, conocer a, yo conozco a Nueva York. That means that I have a personal involvement or personal experience in New York. That is, I can tell where Fifth Avenue is. I can locate Saks for you. I can locate the most famous delicatessen in the world, which is in New York. That is, this is the other meaning of knowledge, the other verb for knowledge, which implies a deep digging onto the surface and participation in the subject that is talked about. This is what gnosis means. Now, the Gnostics, don't hang together. Many scholars say there's no such thing as Gnosticism. I think there is. I think that you can use the generic term to cover a whole span of experiences, and they're all incorporated in the about 100 texts that we have. Anyhow, I don't think I need to linger over what gnosis means. I think you understand that the Gnostics believe, I'll translate it into German, that there is a Verstehen, that is, that there is an understanding that one can have about Christ. That's all the Gnostics talk about. That's all they care about is Christ. That you can have a Verstehen of Christ, but there is also, the Gnostics say, besser Verstehen, a deeper and more profound understanding of Christ. This is what the Gnostics are about. Now, how do they achieve this? I'm going to answer the whole question right off the bat, and then I have nothing more to talk about in the lecture. That is, how do you achieve this? This is because you pursue Christ. You chase Christ, literally chase him, and you subdue him. You enter into the figure of Christ. In Elaine Pagel's doctoral dissertation, she talks about John as a Gnostic gospel, and John is a Gnostic gospel. In John, Christ says to the disciples in the Gospel of John, he says, I am thee and thou art me. That's it. That's the whole kit and caboodle. I am thee, Christ says to the disciples, and thou art me. That is, Christ and the disciples form into a single encapsulated sentient unit. And that's what it's all about. Now, for the Gnostic, therefore, he spends his life pursuing Christ. Now, whether he catches him or not we don't know. When all is said and done, despite all these Gospels and some brilliant scholars, the two leading scholars are both women. Karen King of Harvard has done some brilliant work. There are incredible minds at work on this. And then, of course, Elaine Pagels, who's now at Princeton and is a distinguished professor of biblical studies there, and has recently opened her own institute with the study of both Coptic and Koine. So if you want to go into the field and study this remarkable phenomenon called Gnosticism, you have to get these two languages in hand. Now, you also need pretty substantial Latin as well. So you need three languages to enter the field. The two of which are hopelessly obscure, Biblical Greek, Koine, and the Coptic languages are, after all, you're not going to use them in making your purchases on Fifth Avenue in New York. They're not spoken languages anymore, they're literary languages. All right, so much for this. I'm now going to draw you a picture of the historical concept of what Christianity is. Every civilization has a concept of what history is. The study of this is called historiography. And every civilization has a geometrical projection that it imposes on history and devises a pattern with which to view it. Now, they are not going to go into the subject of the world civilizations on their historiography because it's beside the point in a lecture on Gnosticism. But I'm going to go into the historiography of Christianity itself. Christianity has a unique historiography in that it is linear. It is the only civilization, the Christian culture that I know, that has a linear layout. I'm going to show it to you. This is where we all begin. 4004 BC. This is Bishop Ussher, 17th century, Ussher's chronology. It's symmetrical, it's geometrical. 4004 BC is the creation. 2,000 years later is the flood. 2,000 years after that, you have the figure of Christ. The 2,000 years after that, you have the second millennium. And then the 2,000 years after that, 4,000 AD, the end of the world. And then in the middle, since we can't wait from the first millennium, the 1000 AD, until 2000 AD, Christianity became very impatient in the Middle Ages, and so they had a mid-millennium in 1500 AD in which the whole world was in turmoil because they thought it was going to end. They could prove it biblically. Anyway, it goes the 4,000s over here, the invisible. But that's the end of it. But you can see that the projection is linear. A line goes from one end to the other. From 4004 BC to 4000 AD, and it is geometrical. It leaps by 2,000 years every time. Now, there is another line, a vertical line, a very complicated one. And let's go back here with the figure of Christ. I need... We'll put Christ up here. And then, of course, before Christ, you get the Old Testament. And then Christ, was after all born a Jew, and was a practicing Jew, so he knew his Old Testament as young Jews would and still do. They know it very well. Christ himself attended the yeshiva, as young Jews still do today. And so he was thoroughly indoctrinated by the rabbis on a regular basis in the Old Testament. Okay, after Christ, we get then Q. Q, that's the name of a document. And I'll put it in brackets here, Quelle. It's the German for source. And this is the next event to occur after the death